Well, it's my last day here at Assynt, last day before I head home. I've come up to the coastline now to do some shooting. Actually came up here yesterday afternoon and I went out onto this beach yesterday to do some shooting. There's some really nice conditions actually. It's quite windy, quite wild, waves crashing against the rocks. Yesterday was actually meant to be my one rainy day. Had rain in the morning for about an hour, then had blue skies again all day. That's kind of what I've had to battle here on this trip, is constant sunshine, which if you're doing the NC 500 would have been wonderful, beautiful conditions, but for landscape photography not so ideal. But there you go with the conditions, you make the most of what you got. So I've come back down to this beach at Clachtoll for the morning shoot. Very different conditions, much calmer. The sun's behind me, still trying to burst its way through. Looks like it's going to be another sunny day. So let's see if we can get some shots down here this morning at what is a pretty amazing location. Well, as I did do quite a lot of crashing wave shots yesterday evening, I am trying to capture something different this morning, and so I thought I'd come up to these sand dunes that are just in front of the beach here, just for something a bit different, especially as that sun is trying to break through. So I might as well make the use of the light rather than doing sort of shots where I want just cloud and wave. So the sun's really lighting up these sand dunes really nicely, lovely golden colour. But I've also found just this little bit of tin post metal roof, I don't know what it is, something down there, nice shape, nice diagonal shape into the picture, and so that's breaking up the actual sand dunes, so it's not just a full-on landscape of sand dunes. There's a break, a little bit of rusty colour. It's not necessarily lit by the sun, but there's enough shape and texture on there to make a nice addition to these sand dunes here. So as I say, I didn't necessarily want the sun this morning, but I've got it. So I'm making the most of it, making the most of the conditions and what I've got here this morning, even if it's not the ideal shot that I was going for this morning. Well, when I was shooting over there, I noticed there was that fence up on the cliff path there, which I wanted to exclude out of the shot there. But then I saw the potential of it being as a kind of a leading line, so I've moved over. So I'm closer to it. I've come over, still in the dunes, but I've come to the dunes where they're a bit lower, a bit smaller. They're quite highly packed over there. Because I want to use that fence, but it doesn't lead in from where I'm standing. It's not a lead in from the front of the frame here. So it's still the dunes in the foreground, but so it comes in from the left-hand side of the frame and then starts leading you up to the cliff top and then out onto the rocks in the sea there. So it's like a little zigzag effect, but it was only by moving over here that I could start to use it as an effective lead-in line. As I say, it comes in from the side of the frame, but by moving over here, I've been able to bring it in and for it to work, but it doesn't actually start working as a lead-in until the end of the dunes, which kind of works quite well there. Well, I haven't got the strong winds that I did have yesterday evening, but there is a slight breeze here this morning, and it's blowing the grasses here in the dunes. So I'm going with that, and I've added a 6-stop ND filter, give me a couple of seconds exposure, and just let those grasses sway in the wind during the exposure. gives a little bit of movement to the final result in the foreground. So we'll see how that turns out as well. Well, I've moved around the coastline a bit more now. I was over there somewhere in the dunes, so I've walked round, so I'm slightly north now, and I've got a nice view down of that main sort of rock that's jutting out there, with the mountains off into the distance behind. Now those mountains were really what I wanted to try and capture here, but maybe you need to be the other side of that main bit of rock, a beach down there perhaps, to get that view. The view from here, you just about see them, and there's kind of a layered effect going on in the picture with those in the background and the foreground rocks, but this is just a bit too horizontal. It's not quite working there. Too many horizontals in the frame, even if it did it vertically. Horizontal, horizontal, horizontal in a horizontal frame. Not good. So I don't quite think that's going to work. So instead I think I'm going to head down to these rocks down here, which means I'll probably lose the mountains as such, but it's a much more dominant, more dynamic shape to have in the foreground. So I'm down at these lower rocks now, but I'm still struggling to find the composition. Obviously you've got these waves crashing over this rock, which is a good focal point here, but I'm not so keen on this rock here. It's quite a dark rock and the sun's just over there, so it's not being lit up at all. You've got the main rocks over there in the distance, that's good. The waves crashing in, which is good, and the little inlet where the water's coming in. But I don't like this rock here, it's too dark. I'm preferring those ones over there. But of course that's looking out that way, not that way. Well, I've been shifting around on these rocks for around, it's probably about half an hour now, just trying to find the ideal viewpoint I want. It was just creating a balance between the shape of the rocks, the time of the exposure, the amount of water coming in, and also dealing with the light coming in from the side, and all those different combinations, including the different filters I was using to prolong the exposure with a polarizer, without a polarizer, has made quite a few variations and options, and I'll probably show you all the different versions that I've done so far. But it's getting harder as the time goes on, because the light is just getting harsher as the sun rises, so it's even more difficult to do. But I think I've got one, but it's taken a little bit of effort to get it. Don't worry, I have had fun. It's been a good session here. I've enjoyed myself this morning. But look what I've got again. Clear blue skies. I hate blue skies. This has just been a follow-up to my first video from Assynt. There's several more on my E6 subscription if you want to see more of my shoots around this area. It's been a lovely area to shoot, beautiful, but I'm bored of it now. I can't wait to get back into the urban environment. But I will come back, I definitely will come back here. Right, I better go and get my camera before it gets taken by this incoming tide.